Imagine finding out that the person who killed the love of your life, the father of your unborn child, was sitting right next to you the entire time. Imagine discovering that your own mother pulled the trigger and then watched as your little brother went to jail for a crime he didn't commit. This is the nightmare that 17-year-old Elizabeth Baldonado lived through, and what you're about to hear will absolutely shock you. Because this isn't just a story about murder. It's a story about betrayal, manipulation, and a mother's willingness to sacrifice her own children to save herself. Stay with me, because the twists in this case will blow your mind. And trust me, you need to hear how this all unravels. It's a quiet Friday morning in downtown Albuquerque, New Mexico. The sun is barely up, and the streets are mostly empty. Walking through a back alley is 16-year-old Jose Ruiz, known to everyone as Jay. He's wearing his work apron, heading to his dishwashing job at Lindy's Diner just across the street. He's young, he's got his whole life ahead of him, and he's about to become a father. But Jay has no idea that someone is waiting for him in that alley. Someone who's been planning this moment. And in just seconds, a single gunshot will end everything. The bullet strikes Jay in the head, killing him instantly. The shooter doesn't hesitate, doesn't check if he's alive. They just disappear, leaving Jay's body bleeding out on the cold pavement. Within minutes, 911 calls start flooding in. Neighbors heard the gunshot. Some saw teenagers running in different directions. One witness mentions seeing a young guy jump into a gold car with a girl before speeding away. When police arrive, they find Jay lying face down, blood pooling beneath his head, still wearing that work apron. No weapon nearby, no identification, just a dead teenager and an empty alley. But here's where things get interesting. The police have no idea that the person responsible for this murder is about to walk right up to them, play the role of grieving family member, and completely manipulate the investigation from day one. Detectives quickly identify the victim as Jose Ruiz through the restaurant across the street. His co-workers recognize him immediately. They call his grandfather, who's a regular at the diner, and when he arrives at the scene, officers have to deliver the devastating news. But during that conversation, the grandfather mentions something crucial. He says Jay had been involved in something recently, something secretive that he wouldn't talk about. And then he drops another bombshell. Jay's girlfriend is pregnant, and she's waiting for him at an apartment nearby. Her name is Elizabeth Baldonado. She's 17 years old, and she has absolutely no idea that the father of her child is dead. Detective Anna Bruciaga takes the lead on this case, and she's determined to find out what happened. After reviewing surveillance footage from a nearby school, she spots something critical. A gold Toyota sedan racing away from the alley just seconds after the gunshot. The video is grainy, the windows are tinted, but you can make out two figures inside the car. So now police know there are at least two people involved. But who are they? And why would anyone want to kill a 16-year-old dishwasher? A few hours later, Detective Bruciaga arrives at the apartment where Jay's girlfriend Elizabeth is staying. The goal is simple: talk to her, find out what Jay was involved in, and hopefully get some leads. But what the detective doesn't know yet is that she's about to come face to face with one of the killers. And that killer is going to sit there, calm as can be, and lie straight to her face. Elizabeth is devastated when she learns Jay is dead. She's crying, she's in shock, and she tells the detective that Jay didn't really tell her much about what he was doing. But then she mentions something that immediately catches the detective's attention. She says that her younger brother Angelo was supposed to box it out with Jay that morning. Apparently, Angelo and Jay didn't get along. They'd had arguments, and things got heated enough that they planned to settle it with a fight. Elizabeth insists her brother would never hurt Jay, that he knows how much she loves him. But here's the thing. This so-called boxing match was supposed to happen the same morning Jay was killed. And now Detective Bruciaga is wondering, did this fight actually happen? Did it escalate into something deadly? Before she can dig deeper, more people start arriving at the apartment. Jay's family shows up, still in shock, looking for answers. And then, another woman walks in. Her name is Ortiz Chavez, and she's Elizabeth's mother. She's there to comfort her daughter, and on the surface, she seems like any concerned parent would be. But when Detective Bruciaga sits down with Chavez to collect some basic information, Chavez says something that makes the detective's instincts go haywire. Chavez mentions that she drives a gold Toyota sedan, the exact same type of car that was seen fleeing the murder scene. Not only that, but she says the car broke down that morning, and she abandoned it on the side of the road. She claims she doesn't even know where it is now. Detective Bruciaga's mind is racing. A gold Toyota fleeing the scene. A gold Toyota that just happens to belong to the mother of the girl whose boyfriend was just murdered. And now that car is conveniently missing. This can't be a coincidence. Bruciaga decides to act fast. She takes Chavez aside and confronts her directly, asking if her car was used in the murder. Chavez denies everything. She says the car broke down, she left it, and someone must have stolen it. But here's where Chavez makes a critical mistake. Her story doesn't line up. She says she abandoned the car around 10:30 that morning, but Jay wasn't killed until after 11. And when Detective Bruciaga pushes harder, asking Chavez point-blank if she shot Jay, Chavez's reaction is strange. She doesn't break down. She doesn't get angry or defensive the way an innocent person might. She just calmly denies it with this sad, almost detached look on her face. And that's when Detective Bruciaga knows. She knows this woman is hiding something. But without proof, without concrete evidence, there's nothing she can do. Not yet. So she lets Chavez go, but she makes a mental note. This family is involved, and she's going to prove it. Over the next few hours, Detective Bruciaga moves quickly. She tracks down Angelo, Elizabeth's younger brother, at his workplace and brings him in for questioning. Angelo confirms what Elizabeth said. Jay wanted to fight him that morning. Angelo says Jay called and set the whole thing up, but the fight never happened. His story matches what his mother and sister told police. Everything seems consistent. But then Chavez shows up at Angelo's workplace, furious that police are talking to her son without her permission. She shuts down the interview immediately and takes Angelo home. And just like that, Detective Bruciaga loses her chance to get the truth. But she's not giving up. She seizes the family's phones, hoping that digital evidence will reveal what they're not saying out loud. And when she finally gets access to those phones, what she finds changes everything. Text messages show that Chavez wasn't just aware of the boxing match. She actively helped arrange it. There are messages where Elizabeth tells Jay, "Mom says they'll be there at 8." Other texts mention concerns about someone pulling a gun. One message from Elizabeth to Jay reads, "I'll be there too because I don't want anything like they pull a gun out." Then there are the messages from Elizabeth's older brother, Gilbert. He's furious at Jay, and he makes direct threats. In one text he writes, "He's going to catch one." In another, he tells someone to delete their messages and says, "Don't say anything about me saying I was going to shoot him. It wasn't me for real. I ain't trying to deal with cops." Detective Bruciaga now believes the entire family might be involved. But she still doesn't have the full picture. Not yet. Here's where things get even more complicated. Because Elizabeth is still a minor, her mother refuses to let her speak with police. Chavez blocks every attempt detectives make to interview her daughter, and legally, there's nothing they can do about it. Weeks go by. The case stalls. Jay's family is desperate for answers, and Detective Bruciaga is running out of options. But then, 20 days after the murder, something changes. Elizabeth turns 18, and now her mother can't stop her from talking. Detective Bruciaga immediately reaches out and convinces Elizabeth to come down to the station. She tells her they've found new evidence, carefully leaving out that the evidence points directly at Elizabeth's own family. The goal is simple: get Elizabeth to talk. Get her to confess what she knows. Or better yet, get her to admit she was involved. But this interview is about to go very differently than anyone expected. Because when Detective Bruciaga sits Elizabeth down and starts laying out the evidence, Elizabeth doesn't crack. She doesn't confess. Instead, she gets angry. Really angry. The detective tells her, "I think you know more than you're telling me. I think you know who killed Jay." Elizabeth fires back. "Are you serious? You think I had someone do something to him? I loved him more than my whole life. Why would I ever hurt him?" Detective Bruciaga doesn't back down. She brings up the text messages. She brings up the breakup. She tells Elizabeth that Jay wanted nothing to do with her anymore, that he only wanted to talk about the baby. She's implying that maybe Elizabeth was angry enough to have him killed. And Elizabeth loses it. She's crying, she's yelling, and she keeps saying, "My family didn't do this. My mom loved Jay. My brother would never hurt him because he knows how much I love him." But then Detective Bruciaga drops the biggest bombshell yet. She tells Elizabeth, "Your mom's car is on video leaving the scene of the homicide." And Elizabeth's response is immediate. "You seriously think they did it? Do you know how many gold Toyota Camrys are in this city? My mom loved that child too. My brother was at home with his girlfriend. They were sleeping. You're trying to blame someone just so you can close the case." At this point, Elizabeth is completely breaking down. She's sobbing. She's hyperventilating. And she's adamant that her family is innocent. Detective Bruciaga tries a different tactic. She softens her tone, tries to make Elizabeth feel safe, tells her she understands that Elizabeth is just trying to protect her family. But Elizabeth won't budge. She keeps repeating, "They didn't do it. I know they didn't do it." Eventually, the interview ends. Elizabeth leaves, still insisting her family had nothing to do with Jay's murder. And Detective Bruciaga is left wondering if she's been wrong this whole time. But deep down, she knows she's not. This family is hiding something. She just hasn't figured out what yet. And here's the thing. She's been focusing on the wrong suspects this entire time. Because the real killer has been sitting right there, playing the role of grieving family member and getting away with murder. Months go by. The case remains open. Investigators keep digging through phone records, surveillance footage, anything that might give them a solid lead. And what they find only makes things more suspicious. They discover that Chavez never actually followed through with reporting her car stolen. She claimed she filed a report, but there's no record of it. They also find more threatening messages from Gilbert, including one where he says, "Delete our messages and don't say anything about me saying I was going to shoot him." Based on all of this, investigators start building a new theory. Maybe Gilbert supplied the gun. Maybe he even pulled the trigger himself. And maybe Chavez helped cover it up by ditching the car and creating an alibi for the family. It's a solid theory. It makes sense. But it's still just a theory. They need proof. So, on May 19th, 76 days after Jay's murder, Detective Bruciaga and a team of officers head to the Baldonado family's house. They're going to confront everyone face to face and see if they can pressure someone into cracking. When they knock on the door, Gilbert answers, and he is not happy to see them. Detective Bruciaga tries to talk to him, but Gilbert is defensive from the start. He admits he threatened Jay. He admits he said he was going to send someone to take care of him, but he insists he didn't actually do anything. He says, "Come on, nobody wanted to do it." They were all scared. The detective seizes his phone and tells him she's getting a warrant to search it. Gilbert doesn't care. He just shrugs and says, "Take it. Do whatever. I didn't do anything." While this is happening, Chavez comes outside. She's in a hurry, says she needs to catch the bus, and she's clearly not interested in talking. But Detective Bruciaga isn't letting her walk away this time. She confronts Chavez directly about setting up the boxing match. And Chavez's reaction is explosive. She gets angry, defensive, and starts making excuses. She says Jay called the house asking for the fight. She says she only let Angelo know because the boys needed to learn to get along. But then, in her frustration, she lets something slip. She admits she knew about the fight. She admits she was involved in setting it up. And when Detective Bruciaga tells her, "When I charge someone, you're going to be charged too, because I know you're hiding the truth," Chavez storms off without another word. It's clear she's done talking, but the cracks are starting to show. Before leaving, Detective Bruciaga tries one more time to speak with Elizabeth. She tells her, "I would just hate to find out that you were involved because then where does that baby go?" He no longer has a dad. Elizabeth insists she was at home when Jay was killed. She says his grandpa walked in on her washing dishes. She swears she knows nothing. And once again, the officers leave empty-handed. But Detective Bruciaga makes a promise. The next time she comes back, it won't be for questions. It'll be with a warrant. A month later, on June 15th, investigators finally catch a break. Cell tower data places Angelo's phone at the exact location of the murder at 11:20 a.m., the same time Jay was killed. This directly contradicts his alibi that he was home with his mother. With this evidence, a warrant is issued for Angelo's arrest. He's 16 years old, and he's being charged with murder. When Detective Bruciaga brings him in for questioning, she's hoping this will be the moment they finally get the truth. But Angelo isn't talking. He immediately asks for his mother and refuses to answer any questions without her present. With no confession and no cooperation, Angelo is booked into juvenile detention and held without bond. Prosecutors start preparing for trial, and at this point, everyone believes the case is solved. Angelo killed Jay. End of story. But what nobody realizes yet is that Angelo didn't pull the trigger. He's just a 16-year-old kid taking the fall for someone else. And that someone else is about to get away with murder. For a full year, Angelo sits in juvenile detention. His older sister, Elizabeth, gives birth to Jay's son in November. She posts photos on social media, trying to move on with her life, starting a new relationship. On the surface, it seems like life is returning to normal. Jay's family believes justice has been served. Angelo is behind bars. The case is closed. But then, in March of 2023, everything changes. Police receive a phone call from a woman who says she's been talking to Gilbert on Facebook. And according to her, Gilbert just confessed to knowing exactly who killed Jay. And it wasn't Angelo. The woman tells police that she reached out to Gilbert after seeing him post hateful things about his mother on social media. She figured maybe she could get him to open up. So she messaged him and asked, "Why is your brother locked up?" And Gilbert's response is shocking. He says, because my mom and him went to go fight my sister's baby daddy because he beat her. And when they got there, my sister's baby daddy tried to pull out a gun, but he got hit before he could even get his gun. But they put the murder on my brother. The woman asks, "Why did they put it on your brother?" Gilbert replies, "Supposedly witnesses were there and said it was him, and they say they got video that looks like him, but you can't see. All you see is a big group, and then everybody scatters." Then she asks the critical question, "Your mom didn't tell nobody it wasn't him?" Gilbert's response is chilling. "Nope. The crazy part is my little brother ain't telling on my mom." She asks, "So your mom did it and let your brother go down?" Gilbert replies, "Yep." When asked if he tried to tell his brother to tell the truth, Gilbert says, "Yeah, but he tells me no. But that's how we was raised. No matter what the situation is, don't tell. And if we do, we got to face consequences." This confession changes everything. Detective Bruciaga now realizes that Chavez didn't just help arrange the fight. She pulled the trigger herself. She lured Jay to that alley under the pretense of a boxing match with her son, and then she shot him in the head. And for over a year, she let her 16-year-old son sit in jail, taking the blame for a murder she committed. But Detective Bruciaga knows she can't move too fast. She needs more evidence. She starts monitoring jail calls between Chavez and Angelo. Most of the conversations are vague, careful. But in one call, Angelo asks why Gilbert looks so sad. Chavez replies, "He's heartbroken you're in there. I told him it's because I messed up, because I'm stupid. Period." That's as close to a confession as they're going to get over a recorded line. But it's enough. Detective Bruciaga decides it's time to confront Angelo directly. She visits him at the detention center and tells him they know the truth. They know his mother did it. And Angelo, who's been sitting in jail for over a year protecting his mother, finally breaks. He asks, "If I tell you everything, will I get the first-degree charge dropped?" The detective tells him they can work something out. Angelo agrees to cooperate. A formal interview is arranged with his attorney present, and Angelo tells them everything. He confirms that his mother pulled the trigger. He confirms that he and his brother were in the car when it happened. He was there, but he didn't shoot Jay. His mother did, and she made him take the fall for it. With Angelo's confession and Gilbert's earlier admission, detectives now have enough evidence to arrest Chavez. A warrant is issued, and she's taken into custody. Detective Bruciaga brings her into an interrogation room, hoping to get a confession. But Chavez isn't falling for it. The moment she realizes what's happening, she asks for a lawyer and shuts down the interview completely. From this point on, it's up to the court to decide her fate. At trial, prosecutors lay out the full case. They present the phone records showing Chavez arranged the boxing match. They show the surveillance footage of her gold Toyota fleeing the scene. They present the confessions from both of her sons. They play the jail call recordings where Chavez admits she messed up. The evidence is overwhelming. Prosecutors argue that Chavez disapproved of her daughter's relationship with Jay. They believe she was angry about how he treated Elizabeth, and she saw an opportunity to get rid of him. They also argue that she calculated that if her teenage son took the blame, he'd face lighter consequences than she would. It's cold, it's calculated, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. As for Elizabeth, investigators determined that she had no direct involvement in the murder. She withheld some information to protect her family, but she genuinely didn't know her mother was planning to kill Jay. She was a victim, caught in the middle of a nightmare she never asked for. In the end, Angelo Baldonado pleads guilty to conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and assault with intent to commit a felony. He's sentenced to remain in juvenile detention until he turns 21. His mother, Ortiz Chavez pleads guilty to second-degree murder. In May of 2025, she receives the maximum sentence, 18 years in state prison. And as if that wasn't enough, Chavez is also facing a separate charge related to child exploitation material found on her tablet during the investigation. So, let's talk about what really happened here. This case is one of the most disturbing examples of parental manipulation I've ever covered. Ortiz Chavez didn't just kill her daughter's boyfriend. She orchestrated an entire plan to frame her own teenage son for the crime. She sat there, calm as could be, and watched as Angelo was arrested, charged, and sent to juvenile detention. She let him sit there for over a year, knowing full well that he was innocent. And the only reason the truth came out was because her other son, Gilbert, couldn't keep the secret anymore. Think about the psychological damage this caused. Elizabeth lost the father of her child and then discovered her own mother was the killer. Angelo spent over a year in detention for a crime he didn't commit, protecting a mother who was willing to sacrifice him to save herself. And Jay's family had to wait over a year to learn the truth about who really killed their son. This case shows just how far some people will go to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. Chavez didn't just commit murder, she destroyed her entire family in the process. And the saddest part? It was all preventable. If Chavez had just stayed out of it, if she'd let the boys handle their issues on their own, Jay would still be alive today. But instead, she decided to play judge, jury, and executioner. And now, she's spending the next 18 years in prison, and her children are left to pick up the pieces of the shattered lives she left behind. If this case disturbed you as much as it disturbed me, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think 18 years is enough for what Chavez did? Do you think Angelo should have told the truth sooner? Or do you understand why he protected his mother for so long? And what do you think about Elizabeth? Was she truly innocent? Or do you think she knew more than she let on? Drop your thoughts down below because I read every single comment, and I want to know what you think. And if you made it this far, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you never miss a case like this. I cover the most shocking true crime stories every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.